News, Friday, October 5th. We have a Fox News alert. Judge Brett Kavanaugh fighting back against the vicious attacks just hours before a Senate vote.
And tensions reaching a boiling point between protesters and the senators who are deciding the judge's fate.
Why don't we dunk in the water and see if he floats?
Don't you wave your hand at me. I wave my hand at you. When I grow up.
And the big question, will we have a new Supreme Court justice by the end of this weekend?
And her presidential run didn't quite work out, but Hillary Clinton will still see her name up in lights.
Forget Lion King. How about a front row seat to Bill and Hillary on Broadway? We'll explain. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
And Griff's going to have a long weekend in D.C.
Yes, true.
Saturday could be quite a bizarre day. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Friday morning. It's not really the weekend yet. It's still Friday morning.
Almost,
I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. We begin with the Fox News alert. Nearly 300 people are arrested as anti-Brett Kavanaugh protests rage on throughout the night outside Capitol Hill.
It is quite a spectacle in D.C. right now. All day, thousands of people heard chanting and screaming, despite an FBI investigation that found no corroborating evidence for sexual assault claims against the Supreme Court Justice nominee. A majority of those 300 arrests, 293 of them, took place inside the Hart Senate office building. And President Trump defending Judge Kavanaugh at a rally in Minnesota.
It was announced for one simple reason. He is an incredible intellect, an incredible person, an incredible talent.
The Supreme Court nominee standing up for himself in a brand new op-ed, and his fate is hanging in the balance.
Griff Jenkins, as we mentioned, he is live in our nation's capital with a reaction on this one. Boy, Griff, another interesting morning.
It is. Good morning, Rob and Jillian. It's been unlike any nomination I've ever seen. And before the voting begins this morning, and on the heels of the release of that FBI report yesterday, Judge Kavanaugh took the unprecedented opportunity to make the final argument for his nomination himself, writing in the Wall Street Journal an op-ed saying, "I was subjected to wrongful and sometimes vicious allegations. My time in high school and college more than 30 years ago has been ridiculously distorted. My wife and daughters have faced vile and violent threats. Against that backdrop, I testified before the Judiciary Committee last Thursday to defend my family, my good name, and my lifetime of public service." He admits that he may have been too emotional at times, but insists that he is an independent, impartial judge. But that wasn't enough for the ranking member of the committee, Dianne Feinstein, who blasted him, saying the FBI investigation was insufficient.
It looks to be a product of an incomplete investigation that was limited, perhaps by the White House. Democrats agreed that the investigation scope should be limited. We did not agree that the White House should tie the FBI's hands. It's simply not credible to say that public testimony in last week's hearing is a substitute for interviews by FBI agents.
Meanwhile, Republican Steve Daines of Montana, who for a time looked like he might even miss the vote for his daughter's wedding on Saturday, supports the judge based on this report.
When you look at the evidence that was presented today, there's absolutely zero corroborating evidence to support these allegations. I said, Judge Kavanaugh, I'm going to be there to vote for you as needed.
So Daines is there, but now it's all going to come down to the math, and all eyes are on those GOP holdouts. You see them there, Collins, Murkowski, and Flake, as well as the red state Democrat Joe Manchin, all of whom are undeclared. Here's where we are, by the way. At about 9:30 today, procedural votes start. The clock starts running on these 30 hours. You get all the way to Saturday afternoon. Let's say that's around 4 or 5 tomorrow. That's when you're going to want to be tuned to Fox News to see how this vote goes down. Kavanaugh's going to need at least 2 of those we showed there at the very end to get across the finish line. Rob,
just keep it on Fox, though, because I feel like so much is going to happen between now and then. It's just endless right now.
They're saying in D.C. they've never seen anything like this.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's wild.
It is a spectacle to behold. Yeah.
That is true. You know, I started my career on the Judge Souter confirmation in 1992, and I've never seen anything like this. In fact, those protesters, by the way, will be back today and tomorrow.
Yeah, there could be probably a lot more, and they keep getting arrested. All right, Griff, thanks so much.
Well, Democrats, as we mentioned, are obstructing Judge Brett Kavanaugh at every turn.
But instead of caving, as Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist, points out, the GOP this time is coming together.
They were hoping to delay the vote, but really hoping to delay the vote in order to kill the nomination. They thought that if they added enough pressure, that Republicans would cave, as they frequently do when you have a juggernaut of the media and the Democrats coming up against them. What happened was amazing. The Republicans bonded together. They said, we've got a backbone this time. We're not going to cave. We're not going to fall for this trick anymore. And so instead of it being a situation where Republican voters were demoralized to watch the Republicans that they put in office do what they usually do, instead you have this enthusiasm and energy and a realization that maybe these dirty tricks and maybe these last-minute, slurs and allegations that come out aren't going to work anymore in the future like they have in the past.
And in case you're keeping track, it has now been 89 days since Judge Brett Kavanaugh was nominated. President Trump slamming Democrats for trying to block Judge Kavanaugh's nomination. The president telling a crowd their resistance will motivate Republican voters this fall.
All you have to do is look at the polls over the last 3 or 4 days, and it shows that their rage-fueled resistance is starting to backfire at a level that nobody has ever seen before.
The president's comments coming as he builds support for Republican Jim Hagedorn. He's running in a critical congressional race against Democrat Dan Feehan. The Minnesota seat has been held by a Democrat for the past 12 years.
All right, more than 800 people come together for a vigil to honor the life of police officer Terrence Caraway, the 30-year department veteran, killed in a shootout in South Carolina. He leaves behind a wife and son, and we're now learning more about the suspect, Frederick Hopkins. That's Caraway there. Hopkins, though, accused of wounding 6 other officers. The disbarred lawyer and Vietnam veteran posted on social media about his gun skills. Police say he opened fire as they tried to serve a warrant to his son.
Taking down terrorists. The Trump administration releasing the first counterterrorism strategy focused on radical Islamic terrorism. The new strategy includes fighting extremists worldwide and on U.S. soil, along with combating their ability to recruit militants online. The administration aims to isolate the militants from their supporters, like Iran. It is the first strategy on counterterrorism since Obama's approach in 2011.
Well, days after a Chinese ship nearly collided with a Navy destroyer, our military is reportedly planning a huge show of force against Beijing. According to CNN, the Pacific Fleet will demonstrate its capability to take on threats over a week in November. It comes amid rising trade tensions between the U.S. and China, as well as the vice president warns China is looking to meddle in our elections.
To put it bluntly, President Trump's leadership is working. And China wants a different American president. There can be no doubt. China is meddling in America's democracy.
At an event in Washington, the vice president also demanded Google end reported efforts to build a censored search engine for China. Wow.
A NASCAR team owner is keeping his father's dream alive 1 year after his death. Brian Smith taking the reins of TriStar Motorsports in North Carolina. It's one of the smallest teams in the circuit, started by his father, Mark, nearly 30 years ago.
We still try to work off of the same values that he kind of started with it, kind of being a small group with a heavy family feel. I'd like to hope he'd be proud of it. I think that's, every kid's goal is to make their parents proud.
Brian's father passed away from cancer at 63 years old. That is something.
All right, we had a couple days of storms over there, but I think today is going to be somewhat calm in the Northeast.
I think we're going to have an epic weekend in the Northeast,
right?
Is what I see.
Janice?
We're going to have a nice weekend here in the Northeast, but do not adjust your set. We have some snow in the forecast. Not here for the Northeast, but take a look. So your current temperatures, you can see where that cold air is across the west. We're at 63 right here in New York City, but it's still going to remain warm over the south. All right, take a look at that. Yes, we've got some snow across the northern Rockies into the northern plains. It's coming, and we could see several inches, especially across the Rockies. Northern Plains is going to get their fair share over the next 12 to 24 hours, and then we have this frontal boundary that's going to bring the potential for very heavy rain. So that's the concern heading into the weekend. Anywhere from 4 to even 6 inches from Texas all the way up towards the Great Lakes. So that's what we're going to watch, that frontal boundary. But look at the snow. Ooh. Well, yeah. Wow. If you like to ski, you're loving this forecast. Yeah. It's starting early. Also want to make mention we are not done yet in the tropics. We are going to be watching this area across the Yucatan Peninsula and maybe into the Gulf of Mexico, possibly developing next week. Here's your forecast today. So a little bit of snow, a lot of snow across the northern Rockies and in towards the northern plains. That frontal boundary across the central U.S. is going to bring the heavy rain. It's going to be very nice here in the Northeast. For Rob. Just for Rob.
I'm going golfing.
Nicely done.
Agenda. Yeah.
Excellent.
We'll take it, Janice. We appreciate the weather forecast.
All about Rob. No.
Right.
Happy weekend, everybody.
You too.
Okay.
So a last-ditch effort. Dr. Ford's attorney now saying they've got more witnesses willing to testify. Where were they before the FBI wrapped up its investigation? Former FBI agent Chad Jenkins takes us inside the investigation.
I would love to get inaugurated January 3rd, January 4th. We're signing health care. We're signing this.
All right, self-declared socialist inaugurated into office. But apparently Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is upset about Fox News coverage of her comments, which didn't make a lot of sense. Wait until you hear this. It's coming up.